So, welcome back. We were somewhere here that all of us, we were trying to come to a plane wherein, trying to come to a conclusion wherein we told ourselves that it's actually communication war. And the most important thing in this war is that it is an intelligence based war. Everyone has intelligence or access to intelligence. It is accessible to all, one and all. It depends upon how well you may be able to use it. And believe me, sitting in this institution where we are producing one of the most talented students in the world, I can tell you that intelligence is there to the core. You randomly call students from this institution and give them a problem, and I tell you that there is no problem on this earth which they won't be able to address. They know how to do that, they know how to reach to the core. So you and these students are, and several such students studying in different institutions in this country and several other countries are reaching to the different corners of this world and are being part of that intelligence which is being, customized, generated, customized and then used further, so on. Now the question is, how should we be thinking about all this? Design thinking, I will talk about it a bit, what design thinking is. But design thinking, does it have a role to play in integrated marketing communication? Yes, it has. That is why I am talking about this. But again, the point is how, why. So what is design thinking? Is it thinking for design? Somehow. Let's see. You see, there are several elaborative versions of what design thinking is. People talk about design thinking in terms of value chains, in terms of products, in terms of services, in terms of provision of services and so on. But let me take you to a larger aspect which is related to design thinking. It's a definition. There are several definitions, as I told you. Just search for them. You go to, you just go to Amazon and type design thinking books, and you will find hundreds of design thinking books and best of the best. And there are several versions which would be elaborating upon this subject. So, but the definition here talks about slightly comprehensively about, design thinking is a human centered approach to innovation that draws from the designer's toolkit to integrate the needs of people, the possibilities of technology and the requirements for business success, a larger broader view. And I will take you further as far as this subject goes. Just keep this in mind. I will not decipher this as of now, but we will keep mentioning the elements here in this definition in due course of time. So, and what it is all about? It is actually about integrating the elements with each other. Elements of what? As of now we are talking of integrated marketing communication and other things related to integrated marketing communication in a marketing process. For example, we have talked about it, or let us say economy at large. Why not? What creates demand? If you pinpointedly look at needs and want, they create they get converted into demand basically. But communication plays a very specific role in propelling that demand and creating that demand, generating that demand for that matter. So look at this now, integrating elements with each other while conceiving the mutual effect and then structuring an action such as communication. Communication is a resultant. So looking into what is to be affected by the communication and how that particular variable or element would be affecting communication as such, and then designing the communication is what you call design thinking. I will be elaborating on that in a short while from now. So, and by now you would be feeling you would be having a complicated thought, but believe me, it is very simple. You just have to practice what? You just have to practice looking into elements or listing down elements and then foreseeing the correlation of these elements with each other. It's like set theory basically, you know. It's like functions, yes, it's like functions basically, different sorts of functions, and wherein, you know, one is correlated to each other, and there are several modes of correlations. So, and you have several names to those functions. But as I am saying, just list the elements which may have connection. For example, you have a product in mind. Now, it will become interesting. As you have a product in mind, so comes the customer, because logically the product is to be sold to a particular kind of a target customer. So, when the customer comes to your mind, definitely during this process or before this process, while you are having a product and a customer, the name of the product definitely would be there. Otherwise, what would you say? What would you tell your customer? What I am offering you? So, that has to have a name. And why should it be its name? Why should you call it that way? Why should you call Nike for example, you know, kind of. So, you would definitely think into that. You would have a reason for that, kind of. And although you are passionate about a particular kind of a word for your product, but definitely you would try to create a resonance of that name with the customer and the customer choices later on. And then let me take you there. And as soon as you have a name, customer and a product, you will have a tagline with you, because now you want to have a very specific targeted rhyme rhythmic statement for your customer. Just do it. Or जिंदगी के साथ भी जिंदगी के बाद भी, डर के आगे जीत है. I have talked about these earlier also. But randomly look into taglines now. You see, now you will find a sort of a connection between the product, the customer, the name, and the tagline. Start looking into this, and then this is how we are listing elements, and we are trying to connect those. So and now it is as if you are, you know, a juggler is putting up balls one by one into the fray basically. So, he starts with one ball, then he puts up the second ball, and he puts up the third ball, and then all these are, after a particular stage, the viewer does not know which ball came first. Design thinking, is it juggling? No, it is not that, it is a very systematic procedure. So, but first we have to look into the elements, and then as soon as you have the tagline, why you create the tagline? Because you have a positioning of the product in the minds, you want to generate a positioning of the products in the minds of the customers. You want them to recall those products with a perspective, with a usage, with a frame of product, price and place, kind of 3 P's, we have talked about it. And then you have the foreseen mode of reaching to that customer. You see, you already have a place where that customer would come to purchase your product. Would it go to a shopping mall, or would it go to an online portal, or would it go to a large departmental store or a small retailer somewhere? Where would he go? Or would he use nowadays, you know, several kind of mobile banking applications or mobile, you know, financial applications, they are also into product selling also, they are becoming retailers now, they are joining that thing also. So you actually, you know, you have a place in mind, and then, you know, would you like to generate the kind of extent that where all you should be reaching, which all places you should be reaching? Yes, you would become slightly greedy at this moment when, or I should say marketer, sorry, would be becoming slightly greedy at this moment when he says that, okay, now things are synchronizing and I should be reaching to all. But do not forget, that for reaching to all you have to have so many products, otherwise you will not be able to reach all. So, you have to have that kind of a production, you kind of have to have that kind of a production capacity, or you would be marketing that product in your name produced by so many vendors on the basis of your quality standards. Definitely many organizations are just marketing organizations, and you never know where they are getting those products manufactured, for example. So, but then you must have that excess or supplies with you. And then when you think in terms of capacitation or enhancing the capacity, then you have a context of existing market demand and a foreseen demand. Now, when you have a context of existing market demand and foreseen demand, you have a competition in mind, you have a prospective market research element or market research element supporting the growth which is to be foreseen by you, the kind of strength which you would be able to maintain in terms of that particular kind of a product, and so on. Do not forget that the story started from simple conception of a product and the name of the product and the communication about that product, and now we are reaching towards the production capacity, towards technological enhancement, because once you want to increase the production capacity, you must have technological enhancement also, or you would like to stick to the traditional means and methods of production, but then you would be involving so many people to do that. There are several organizations which are using traditional methods to produce their products, I can name them, but then they are focusing upon large number of people for that, and this keeps on going. And just to mention here that why events are important, as they generate attention and demand if complemented by communication, you see, kind of. And I am referring to cricket at this moment, and I am coming back to communication. For example, cricket happens, it seeks attention from everyone in this cricketing country, everyone watches cricket, and there are so many products which are into the fray and demand gets generated. It has a direct relation with economic development, or let us say generation of demand. But do not forget the relationship we have just seen in different kinds of elements while listing those continuously, and I am focusing on business elements only. If you will slightly more complicate this, for example, supplies of raw material. Have you heard this example recently, or this news recently, that because of some chips or semiconductors not being available in the market, automotive industry was slightly reducing or slowing down their production? You know what I am saying. And at that particular moment, if advertising is being very prominent in terms of automotives, demand would get generated, but they would not be able to supply. So, what they did was they reduced the communication, obviously, and somehow if someone would have already initiated the communication and suddenly gets the news that he has to slow down the production, then what happens? That either might create a customer frustration, or customer might start looking for some alternatives, or might be getting away from that particular kind of a thought of purchasing that automotive at that particular moment. For example, that very year n number of customers, they think in terms of deciding on changing their automotives. They might postpone it. Whose loss it is? Not customer's loss. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is what is a glimpse of design thinking, wherein all the elements are connected to each other. What we have to do is, we have to learn to list those elements, then form a direct functional relationship just on the piece of paper through lines which may connect them, and then put arrows on the basis of direct dependence and indirect dependence, as simple as that. Just to give you an example, It's like cooking a dish, and if you know how to cook, then definitely you are very clear on what I am telling you. Or if you do not know and you just enjoy watching people how they are cooking, then go to a program like MasterChef, for example, and a very section of that program wherein the judges, they give an option to the participants or contestants to go for, within few minutes they go for a shelf wherein lot many vegetables and lot many things are there, and simultaneously they have to think about and conceive about a dish and choose and pick things basically. Or if they do not have a dish in front of them, they just randomly pick and choose things and they come up and start preparing that. Might resonate a call of how things are, how elements are correlated to each other. And if you are more clear on that slightly, then again go back to the choices, how we make choices in due course of time in our own journey of our lives, and you will get to learn about this element of design thinking there as well. But at the end of the day, from a marketer's perspective, from communication perspective, design thinking basically focuses on integration and effect of the first element on the last element. However insignificantly related this last element is to the first element. I will not complicate things by taking it further into life cycles or those. I will be addressing a bit about that thing in the next section. But here I would definitely like to pause and take you towards the extent aspect. You see, as we know what may happen through the power of communication, because what we are learning here is to enhance the effectiveness of communication through design thinking elements by understanding the effect which it might generate. So if we understand this, and if we understand the extent of communication, so should we be including the element of sustainability and ethics in design thinking? That is what I am trying to put in front of you as of now, because that should also be the call. Whose responsibility is this? I am X kind of a manufacturer who is producing an equipment which is very relevant in today's contemporary times. It might be some electronic equipment, it might be some automotive equipment, whatever. You just can't do without that, for example. And I want to generate demand, and communication is my power. I am using it effectively. These kind of subjects are enabling the understanding about that effectiveness, more or less. Hundreds of B schools are working on a generation which can do that effectively. All of us get involved in that. Very nice. But what would happen at the fag end? The kind of waste that kind of a production would generate later on. Should we be taking that element into consideration while thinking of design thinking? Yes, we must. Because our understanding of innovation, our understanding of sustainability, our understanding of ethics tell us that that will actually contribute towards our profitability. Just a focus on increase of linear levels of demand, I should not be saying irrational demand, just a focus on that might not help anyone at the end, because as and when the product would reach to a particular stage of stagnation or decline, and we might not be able to evolve the usage, or something might have happened by then to those kinds of products, or some policy structure would have changed because people would have decided, or the world has decided that they should be refraining from using X kinds of products, basically, however important they are. By that time, who is the loser? We would be the loser. We would have gained, marketers would have gained lots of market strength and lots of business and revenue by that time. But again, they would vanish. And the objective is not to vanish. Objective is to sustain, objective is to grow, objective is to stabilize. So, we should be thinking sustainability as a part of. When we are generating communication, we know what kind of demand it would generate, we know the procedures, we know the processes. We should either rationalize that demand and then divulge into different kinds of product lines for the same customer, or we should be innovative in these kind of products and work on recyclability of these kind of products, which many companies happily are doing, and they are recycling those things which could have been dramatic and drastic wastes. They are working on that strongly, and that basically is becoming a very integrated, intensely integrated part of design thinking. So, you see, just to read these last two lines from this particular slide, that ethics and sustainability hindering the path of the greed should be an integrated part of design thinking. Why? Because a marketer and communicator must be responsible for his customer and respondent. Besides everything, it should be the responsibility towards the customer should be the prime responsibility, as simple as that. If we are unable to even realize that what detrimental effects it might bring in, but then we should be responsible about the customer. And now in further sessions, I would be focusing, or the next very session I would be focusing on the relationship of design thinking with the modes of integrated marketing communication. And there I would be emphasizing very plain and simple relationship, not to complicate it that much, that how kind of we should be looking at IMC and its effect on different elements of marketing mix, which I have mentioned in few earlier sections. But here I would be emphasizing upon the life cycle of products, the product lines, and definitely when we mention product lines, I would definitely be talking about production line as such also. And then we will try to build up a direct case on design thinking element as far as visible marketing goes. So, and when I say visible marketing means wherein you would be able to realize that if you think in a particular mode, you would be able to realize the effect directly, and then that effect would percolate down to X element as such also. And not surprisingly, you would learn that how product augmentation, process innovation is also done because of that. And then it has again a positive effect on reformulating the communication as such, because fundamentally we have to focus on how to reformulate the communication. And here I would leave you with a caution that once you position a particular kind of a product in the minds of the customer through a very strong communication perspective, it is very difficult to change that positioning, and many a times it is detrimental. For example, today you have said that we are this, you should be looking at us with this perspective, with this usage, and the other day you want to tell them no, now you should be looking at this, at us with this kind of a perspective. It is a difficult call, it is a difficult call. So, to reduce the probability of that particular situation wherein you are compelled to change your positioning, it is always advisable that you always foresee the integration of your communication with the elements which would evolve in due course of time, so that you can evolve your communication rather than changing your positioning, or you may readjust your positioning somehow rather than changing it and getting deteriorating result in terms of profitability or let us say customer acceptance. So, I will leave you with this thought at this moment, and then in next section I would be elaborating upon design thinking and the modes of communication. Goodbye for now. Thank you. See you in the next session.